Does your past disqualify you from God using you? Stick around because today we're going to talk about that. Hey there, my name is WayneWrz, and on this channel we're walking the journey toward Jesus together. I would love for you to subscribe and join our community. I put out new videos each week. So Moses is a pretty big deal in the story of Israel, God's chosen people. If you know about Moses from the VeggieTales, go ahead and type Big Mo in the comments below. He was born at a time when Hebrew baby boys were being killed by Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. But Moses was the man that eventually God used to lead his people out of slavery. But before Moses went to Pharaoh and said, "Let my people go," he killed the man. In Exodus chapter 2, we read, "Many years later, when Moses had grown up, he went out to visit his own people, the Hebrews, and he saw how hard they were forced to work. During his visit, he saw an Egyptian beating one of his fellow Hebrews. After looking in all directions to make sure no one was watching, Moses killed the Egyptian and hid the body in the sand." When Moses was a baby, he was put in a basket in an ark and put in the Nile. And he was found by Pharaoh's own daughter. So he grew up in Pharaoh's household. But when he was 40, he went out to see what was happening with his Hebrew brothers and sisters. And when Moses saw a fellow Hebrew being mistreated by an Egyptian, his response was to kill the Egyptian. And it would seem to me that Moses didn't want anybody to know that he had done this. The text says that before he killed the man, he looked in all directions to make sure that nobody was watching. And after he had killed the man, he hid the body in the sand. He hid the evidence. It seems to me from the text that Moses knew this wasn't the proper way to handle the situation. What do you think, Lego Wayne?
If we keep reading a bit farther into the story, we see that after Pharaoh found out that Moses had killed a man, Moses fled to Egypt. He spent 40 years in Midian as a shepherd. His decision to kill the Egyptian had consequences, just like our sins and our mistakes have consequences. But does that disqualify us from God's call in our lives?
Thanks, Lego Wayne. If you're familiar with this story, you'll know that God still used Moses to lead the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt. Our past does not disqualify us from what God has for our lives. Moses made mistakes, Moses sinned, but that didn't disqualify him from what God had called him to do. As you go through this week, I hope you remember that we can't do anything that God's grace isn't big enough for. Thank you so much for checking out the video. If you liked it, you can hit the thumbs up button, share it with your friends. I hope you have a great week as we walk the journey toward Jesus together. We'll see you later, alligator. But before Moses went to Pharaoh.
If we keep reading a bit further into the story,
Moses supposes his toes are roses, but Moses supposes erroneously. For Moses, he knows his toes aren't roses, as Moses supposes his toes to be.